Well guys, it is time to change the transmission oil on my bus. Now this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while because the transmission's kind of been giving me a little bit of a noise, and I kind of had the same noise when my differential started going out on my first transmission, which was a long time ago. It was the original transmission on the bus, so I don't really blame it too much. But this one has been rebuilt and it seems to be working perfectly fine. It's just I get this little bit of a sound whenever I'm turning, which to me is indicative of some sort of differential problem. And it just sounds like something's just not working 100%. The only thing I can think of to really prolong the life of this transmission for whatever it has left, or even if there is a problem, I'd like to know about it before, you know, I get stuck out on the road somewhere, is just to take out all the old oil, change it out, and see what's going on in there. Now, since I'm taking the oil out of the transmission and I'm changing that, I might as well also do the reduction boxes. I believe it's the same oil. I have to double check with it. If you're going to change both the transmission and reduction box oil, like there's a certain procedure to do it so that you don't like accidentally let all the oil out of the transmission while you're changing the reduction box fluid. But without any further ado, let's get on Amazon, let's order the oil, and let's get to work. Okay, well, it's been about a week now, and I got back my oil that I'll be using for the transmission and the reduction boxes, and I also got this nice little pump that will go into this so that I can pump the oil into the transmission and into the reduction boxes. It's important to note that the oil is an 8590 Hypoid GL4 gear oil, as I've heard other oil is bad for synchros. I've also got this little piece of paper that I wrote a long time ago. It's kind of just like the procedure to change the oil in the transmission and the reduction boxes. And I've heard of a lot of different ways of doing this, but this is the way that I've done it before in the past, and it works for me. I'm not gonna be able to work in this outfit because this stuff is so nasty. Like, gear oil is probably my least favorite smell ever. So I'm gonna change into something that I can at least, you know, throw out when I'm done with, and then I'll get to work putting this into the transmission. But first, actually, let's take the bus for a little bit of a drive around the block. I need to turn it around anyway and just get the transmission and the reduction boxes a little bit warmed up so the oil flows out of them really nicely. It's about 200 degrees outside. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on this air conditioning that everyone told me would break my bus so far. But that was a long time ago, and look, it still works. Yeah. Now the AC is a little bit loud, but it just means that I can't hear the haters over it. That, and I'm also nice and cold. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do here is crawl underneath the bus, where I am right now, on the driver's side, and look for the fill plug on the transmission. And you want to take that fill plug off before you try emptying the transmission at all, because the fluid will all drain out and then you will have no way of putting it in if you can't get the fill plug off. Okay, well, I just undid the fill plug on the transmission, and it is definitely a little bit low. It's a little bit foamy, too. Yeah, that could have been my problem, that the oil was getting a little bit too hot, and that's the reason why I was hearing that noise around corners in the differential. Kind of hoping that that's the reason why. It doesn't look like it was so low that it would have hurt anything, but it definitely is a little bit low. This also goes to show that it's a really good idea to check your oil like every 6,000 miles. Like every other oil change, pop underneath the bus, undo that fill plug, and just make sure that it's up to the bottom of that fill plug. So now I'm just gonna go ahead, go back underneath the bus, drain the oil out of the transmission, and then move on to the reduction boxes. Oh God, I can already smell the transmission oil. It smells so gross to me. I don't know, I hate that smell. Behind me there are two drain plugs, and they're both filled from the same fill plug on the transmission, the one that I just took off. There's one for the differential, which is the rearmost one, and there's one for the gearbox, which is the one in the front. Okay, so now we have both the differential and the gearbox drain plugs out. Everything is actually looking pretty okay. The gearbox drain plug looks like it's collected a little bit of material, but it's no like large chunks of anything. It doesn't look like anything is like destroyed in there. And the differential has taken a little bit more material on the magnet, but it's been a pretty good amount of time, so that's not like a worry or anything like that. Everything looks fine down there. So I'm gonna let this transmission drain out a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna put the drain plugs back in and then start on the reduction boxes. Just like on the transmission, you want to do the fill plug first, just to make sure. Since this fill plug is up in the air kind of, you really want to clean it off first before you open it up, just so you don't get any large chunks of dirt and stuff in it. All right, so our drain plug is back on the reduction box and it's time to refill it. It's very, very important that you refill your reduction boxes before you refill the transmission. And this is because the transmission and the reduction boxes share the same fluid. So if I were to try to fill up the transmission right now, it would leak into the reduction boxes if they weren't full. And then the second I tried to open these up or whatever to try to refill them, it would all just flow right out of the reduction boxes because the boxes are a lot lower than transmission. So without further ado, let's refill these reduction boxes. It's always good to fill it up pretty slowly too, because you don't want to make it seem like it's full and for it to not actually have enough fluid. Also right now, since the bus is kind of tilted at an angle a little bit right here, when I fill this up and I spin the brake around here, the axle is turning and so are the gears inside here, and it's allowing fluid back into the transmission. Really, it should go down when I'm moving it back and forth, and it does, so it's a good thing. Well, that's all I'm going to pretty much do to clean this thing up for right now. God forbid I ever have to take this reduction box apart, then I'll clean it a little bit better than what I just did. Or maybe if I ever have the brakes off, again, hopefully that won't be for a very long time. This is good enough just to make sure that there aren't any leaks and that everything is running smoothly. Let's go ahead and put this wheel back on and let's move over to the other side. They're not on there really torqued down or anything like that. I'll come back with the torque wrench and put them in the correct torque. And I'll just leave the caps off to make sure I remember. All right, same process as before. We just take out the fill plug, then we take out the drain plug, then we put the drain plug back in, we fill up the box, spin it around a little bit, fill plug back in, and put the wheel back on and set her down on the ground. Then we can fill the transmission. filled up the passenger side reduction box. Everything looks really good. There wasn't any pieces of metal or anything in that either. So I can now fill up the transmission. Want to make sure to lower the car back down on all four wheels though, and make sure that it's like sitting nice and level before you fill up the transmission. Okay, everything is back together and ready to go. Hopefully, this fixes the problem with the noise that I'm having around corners. Nothing under there looked bad. Hopefully, it was just that it was low on oil. Yeah, but the last thing to do is just take it out for a test drive and see how it runs. I can tell you for 100% right now, the gearbox feels smoother. It goes into gear a lot easier. And this is when the oil is cold too, so I'm sure that it's going to be even better when it's all warmed up. Well, I would call that a success. I took the bus down to the Keys yesterday and I heard no noises and I saw no leaking or anything like that. So I'm going to assume that the bus is ready for any adventures that I want to go on. And with that, it brings us to the end of our video. So if you like what you've seen or you want to see more, please consider subscribing or hitting a like button or leaving me a comment. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.